Everyone, I'm Marlene Siu, Exhibitions Manager at the Honolulu Museum of Art School. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us in this talk story with the co-curators of Why Are You Painting? Why Are You Painting is the Honolulu Museum of Art's inaugural virtual exhibition that is currently on view on the museum's website, honolulumuseum.org. This exhibition celebrates the medium of paint and features 21 US-based artists from 3 states, Hawaii, California, and New York. I'm so excited for this conversation and to share this virtual space with the co-curators of Why Are You Painting? Reem Bassous, Dickey, and Alina Kawai. Reem Bassous received her BA from the Lebanese American University and her MFA from the George Washington University. She started teaching drawing and painting in 2001 at the George Washington University, taught at the University of Hawaii at Manoa for 9 years, and is currently an instructor at Leeward Community College at the University of Hawaii. Hi, Reem.
Hi.
Dickey received an MFA from the University of Hawaii at Manoa in 2017 and a BFA from the University of Delaware in 2009. He is an artist and curator currently based out of Brooklyn in New York. Hi, Jan. And Alina Kawai is originally from Hyogo, Japan, and moved to Hawaii in 2002. She received her BFA from the University of Hawaii at Manoa with a focus in painting, and she currently is an MFA candidate at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Hi, Alina.
Hi, everyone.
So welcome, everyone, to our Zoom talk story, and let's get started. So I know we are connecting from 3 different states. Alina, you're currently based in California. Jan, you're in Brooklyn, New York, and Reem and I are here in Hawaii. Well, separate, but together here in Hawaii. But that hasn't always been the case. At one time, you were all based in Hawaii and met regularly through the Painters Club, which was a sort of an artist collective in Honolulu that you all belong to. Is that correct?
Yeah, we started the Painters Club in, I think it was 2017, and it was sort of just a critique group. So we met monthly and invited painters that we knew to meet up and discuss each other's work. We'd spend like usually about 3 hours, once a month. Just getting together, and we'd have a 3 or 4 artists bring work and just look at paintings, talk about the paintings, and it was really helpful for me, and I feel like other people got a lot out of the discussions, and that it just created like an ongoing conversation around what was happening privately, in people's studios, because you don't always have the opportunity outside of places like school, art schools, where, critiques are formalized by the institution to have those sort of discussions. So, yeah, and it's been in operation since then with like, a bit of a hiatus because of the pandemic. But this exhibition is being put on by that group that we formed that we call the Painters Club.
So what was, I guess, since this exhibition was conceptualized in the Painters Club, what was your motivation behind co-curating this exhibition?
Jan and Alina, I think you guys should answer that question.
Sure. I think, well, it started, with like an idea of wanting to see more shows specifically dedicated to painting and that celebrates painting, as a medium and like its history and like where it's at right now. And Jan and we happened to be in Japan at the same time, I guess 2 years ago at this point. And we were just having, a conversation about painting, and that kind of, I guess, exploded into this, crazy idea of having a show, since Jan was moving out of Hawaii and I was moving to Santa Barbara, and, we still had connections to each other.
So with this exhibition, it, as I mentioned before, it connects 21 artists across 3 states through the single question of why are you painting? And you were in the midst of planning the exhibition. It was originally supposed to be a physical exhibition at the Honolulu Museum of Art School, which was supposed to open during the summer of 2020. And then COVID happened. And we had to pivot a little, and it transitioned into a virtual exhibition. But how did you navigate co-curating an exhibition during this unprecedented time in history and manage to connect with the artists during these times of overwhelming isolation?
Maybe we're taking turns. You want to talk, Reem?
Sure. As Jan always mentions, that we actually made contact with most of the artists before the pandemic happened. And so we had selected almost everyone before the pandemic. And we were able to conduct those studio visits prior. And so it was much easier. Fortunately for me, I knew most of the artists really well, a few of them having been former students of mine. So I knew how they worked. I trusted their process and had no worries whatsoever about what they were going to produce. There was this great deal of trust. I think that it was a little different for my co-curators, so I'll let them chime in.
Well, yeah. So I moved to New York City in September of 2019, and by that time, we had already we had submitted the proposal to do this show with Lenny over the summer and had been approved. So I was doing an artist residency in Tokyo for the whole of that summer, and then I had like a 6-week stopover on Oahu before I moved to New York. And in that time, Alina and I were both on Oahu at this time. Found Reem, roped her into curating the show, and then we each moved. Alina and I both moved, and so I basically spent the fall conducting studio visits with artists and basically finding artists for the show. There was a couple artists that I'd been following on Instagram who I just sort of cold called and asked if I could see their work. There was like one artist that I met just in the hallway of my friend's apartment, and just like various other stories for how I kind of found the 7 painters in New York. But I was really it was really fun for me because I was new to living in the city, and it was an opportunity to just like meet new people and like find out what other people are up to, you know, in New York in their painting studios. And so when everything shut down in the spring, I had already found most of my group. I ended up getting a new painter on over the summer, but I pretty much had everybody had already done studio visits and was in the process of talking with them and beginning to do the creating their curatorial statements that answer the question of why they're painting by that time.
Yeah, I had, I guess, similar experience to Jan, where, you know, not recent, I guess about a year ago, I moved to Santa Barbara, and obviously I don't really know anybody, so it's just sending cold emails to people. I would just surf the web, look for artists, and a few artists are connections from UC Santa Barbara. And a lot of times if they, you know, did reply back, I would drive down to Los Angeles a lot of times and then do studio visits, or, you know, email exchanging was another thing too, because I'm in school, so I don't necessarily sometimes have the time to go to different parts. And California is so big that, you know, I guess my survey is like a very small portion of what California really has to offer.
In your respected locations, do a lot of the artists already know each other, or was there any contact between the artists within the different locations?
Definitely in Honolulu, everybody knew each other. And I did have a couple of meetings early on between the artists. And so they were able to see each other face to face, and those who were not on the island physically were able to Skype in. And so it worked out really well that they all knew each other.
I don't think any of my artists know each other. Yeah, I think some artists I met through other artists that I know who are not painters. But yeah, I think that this exhibition might be the first time these artists are seeing one another's work for the most part, unless I'm blanking on some connection.
Yeah, I'm the same too. I don't think anybody knows each other or has not that I know of, but yeah, this is, I think, a new, I guess, collective of people.
Was there significance between with that number 21? Why seven artists?
I don't know. I think it just felt like a nice number. 20. It was 21 in blackjack. What other? This the drinking age.
It's a good number.
Right? It was. I think it was just random. Like seven each state sounds like a manageable number. So we went with it.
I think it's, yeah, kind of being able to manage like how much each person can manage, but also still have a good handful of different types of work was what we're aiming for. And if we had to do 10, that would be, a lot. But if it was 5, that seems a little, not quite enough. So I think 7 was like the in-between lucky number.
I think management was key because, we are really not curators. We're artists, and we're, in my case, an educator as well. And so we have, I have a lot of appreciation for what curators actually do. And I wouldn't assume to be in that anywhere close to that league. And so it was just a lot of juggling with 7 artists. So that's as much as we can handle, I think.
Did you? Well, it's based on that idea of being artists and not curators. Did you find like, how do you feel that being artists yourselves, how did that impact the way you worked with each artist, or the way that you helped them develop, their statements? I know you all worked very closely with them throughout this whole period. Did you find that being an artist helped the curation process, and in what ways?
Yeah, I think the being an artist throughout my life and knowing artists throughout my life has helped me cultivate a skill for working with other artists, because everyone's different, of course, but there are like tendencies that I find that artists have, that different kind of needs they have in communication style and space, and also like freedoms that they want especially when they're like exhibiting artists, that aren't taking commissions, but like doing, work that like fulfills their own vision. And so I think knowing those needs and those desires for myself helps me in like my communication, and from what I like receive back from being an artist and work, especially being a painter and working with other painters, what I received from doing this with them was, for me, it was really affirming, because basically my job of working with them was to try to understand why they're painting, and then try to like communicate that in a piece of writing that pulls from their quotes, but is basically like a piece of literature that is meant to evoke something that feels true to them for why they're painting, and trying to get to the source of that for so many people. It gave me a feeling that that what I'm involved in, this practice of painting, is meaningful, and of course I already like found it meaningful, but sometimes you like as an artist, like at least I have these moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Should I be doing that? Just like moments of questioning it. But like this project was like really affirming to constantly see why other people are painting and being like, yeah, like I'm part of this. I'm part of the painters club. This is like a practice that other people are doing. And I think it was Laura Krifka's statement where she says about painting that painting is painting is relevant. You are relevant to people that I'm probably misquoting her, but you're relevant to people that like painting, and they are relevant to you. So it's this idea that what you're doing is important to the people that find it important. It doesn't have to be a universally accepted or wanted thing, but if there are people in this world that find something important, and then they are the people that are going to validate you being involved in that practice. So that's what working with the artist did for me.
I mean, I was very much in teacher mode all the time, and so it was a different relationship for me. But it was also very gratifying as a whole to see how other artists how other painters specifically are still practicing painting, and how absolutely relevant it is. I mean, what I love so much about the show is that it's unapologetically celebrating paint. And so many people have tried to diminish from the practice, but time and time again, it's been proven to be such a valuable, rich, and never-ending search within the practice of painting itself. And so it was just reaffirming on so many levels.
I mean, you guys did such a beautiful job. Alina, did you want to add something about the experience?
Yeah, sure. It was, I guess, like reaffirming to connect with other artists too. And it's like, I love talking to other painters and other artists of different mediums. But, for me, I get stuck in a vacuum when I'm making work, and I completely isolate myself for a while. And then, this project is kind of like reminding me that there's an exterior world of artists too.
Yeah, I think I mean it's amazing to see the variety of work that's in the exhibition. I mean, even 21 artists is not it's not a huge group of people, but the variety of the work within these 21 artists, I think, spans the whole gamut of almost. Well, I'm sure there's more, but for me, I think it just spans the whole spectrum of painting. And I was wondering how, based on like the different styles that each artist is working in, their statements are so different as well. Were you folks surprised by any of their answers as to why they're painting, or intrigued by specific statements?
Well, I think of Tom Walker, for example, who's one of the Hawaii painters, and how he celebrates craft and just the act of making, and almost if you ask him, he would even say it's almost devoid of any emotion. It's just he wants to become the machine, right? And then if you look at someone like Amy McKay's work, it's just completely the opposite, where the gesture is involved and the movement, and it's a whole body affair. And so I just really love the contrast between some of the painters that we have. And it's not that any of them surprise me, but it's just that the whole practice continuously brings up something new and a new way of looking at painting.
Yeah, like some of the artists in regards to how relevant painting is and replying to that question. It was like a split between a few artists. Some people are like, oh yeah, it's definitely relevant. And then some people mention that it's not really relevant, but then that's kind of the strength of it too. Because, in comparison to perhaps like digital work or there's like a tactileness to it, and kind of that becomes like the strength and really the personality of these paintings.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing, because the responses to one of the questions. So we gave everyone a 6-question survey to try to. We did studio visits, but also this survey was a way to like kind of pinpoint some like specific things to try to attempt to get to the core of why they were using this medium. And one of the questions was, do you think painting is relevant in the year 2020? Just kind of an open-ended, what do you think? And yeah, like some people have said no. But they're like, that's why I'm doing it, so I thought that was interesting that you, and I can kind of relate to that, is to be involved in something that you don't need to be relevant. Like in order to do something that you love, and you can find something worthwhile and important even without it like having this grand relevance where like it should be on the nightly news, that you're making paintings.
Did you find that any of the individuals artists reach out to any of you in response to some of the other statements? Was there any conversation based on that?
I haven't received any responses like that. No.
No, but I think the general sentiment from a lot of artists was they were really, really happy to be a part of this exhibition. And we were happier to have them be a part of this exhibition. I mean, a couple of our artists like Catherine Haggerty and Richard Tinkler have been reviewed by the New York Times. Richard Tinkler as recently as yesterday, actually. And so these are, not amateur artists, and so it's just a very, very lucky thing that we have them as part of this exhibition, and to give them access to one another's work, I think was also a special thing.
Yeah, and I think completing a project this year especially was important for me, because of all the hurdles, of there being a global pandemic, and trying to do a show that's out in Hawaii where work, would have to travel. People, like a lot of the New York artists that I met over this last fall and did studio visits were like, oh, I'm going to go to the show. Like they wanted to go to Hawaii, and so working with people through this like difficult process where everything's been, made more difficult this year, of course, but accomplishing it, even if it's not the form, that it was meant to be in when it was conceived, accomplishing it in a way where people get to see it, they get to share it, they get to do, interviews, with Reem, like the one that you guys are going to do later, and having the book, put into a catalog, like a physical form, like that, is all like ways of, kind of improvising how to make something real without like it being in a real physical space. And so for me, that's been an interesting project, and figuring out, okay, how do I make this a reality, even though it's not going to be like an art show in a room.
Since you all created like this community, these 3 different communities of artists, and they in turn formed one large community of the Why Are You Painting exhibition. Do you foresee, is the Painters Club going to be a national collective now? Are they all a part of the Painters Club?
I think we're trying to figure out what form it's going to take. because it can still continue to operate as it was on Oahu, under the leadership of Reem. But we've been talking a bit about doing setting up some Zoom like portfolio reviews that, of course, Alina and I could participate in through a Zoom platform like this. But yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on what people want. I think if I don't know if like trying to do the Painters Club in the way that we did it in a physical space on Oahu can translate long term on computers. But I feel like it has the potential to at least be a thing that has like reoccurring, exhibitions. Like we've spoken about why are you painting 2025? A new group of painters, same question, different year. So who knows? Maybe.
I think that it's important for us to be very open-minded and open to change, and responding to the times, and to have that flexibility as well. So I am not necessarily thinking of it as just Honolulu-based, because it would take away the opportunities of engaging with other artists off island, which I think Hawaii artists desperately need. They need that dialogue because we are so isolated over here. I think it's very valuable to give them that resource at the very least.
Yeah, as much as, the pandemic has been difficult, the whole like Zoom interaction, oddly kind of opens up new connections for people in different time zones, different places. And like at my school, in my grad program, we're doing critiques every week with the grad students. And, we show our works through Zoom, sharing our screen. So it kind of creates like, this urgency right now to connect even more because we're isolated. And, the Painters Club, not necessarily being like a club, but, I think of it like anybody who loves painting and is interested, I think has, it's a great way to just connect and talk.
Yeah, and I think because a lot of people are so zoomed out, we're just making sure that these conversations are really relevant and meaningful, and not just, spending time on a screen, because we're doing that a lot already.
Very true. I know you mentioned that, so you guys are thinking maybe why are you painting 2025, asking the same question, possibly different artists. And I think we've mentioned before in previous conversations that, even with that question, why are you painting, sometimes your answer changes personally yourself throughout the years. Do you feel like being a co-curator of this exhibition and creating this community with all these 21 artists, has working with them or really developing these statements, has that changed your answers to why you're painting yourselves? Has that impacted it at all?
I don't think I think I was having a conversation with some artists last night, and it kind of it came to this point that people are essentially always making the same work, and it changes, but from the outside, when you look at another artist over the years, you see so many reoccurring themes that I feel I do, especially by the time you become an adult. I think that you're sort of making the work that you're going to make, and it is what it is. That's who you are. That's your work. So I don't think that it like doing this totally shifted my studio practice, but I think it did like give me encouragement that that the role of being a painter is a worthwhile thing.
yeah, I feel like I know why I paint and I know why I make work. And it's more like relating to other people and read, because, you know, we had these questions, and you get the sense of, you know, the urgency and the necessity of why everybody's making work. And that's kind of, you know, connecting with each other, and the reassurance that, you know, painting is important.
You know, there's on the book cover that we published for this exhibition, Mirka Castillo has this beautiful quote. I find it so captivating knowing some of us stood in front of a canvas with the world going full-blown apocalyptic, and we painted. That's such a beautiful, beautiful quote, because it's the reality. I mean, you know, the studio saved a lot of us. And, you know, I dispute the fact that a lot of artists have come out and said that they should be equated with first responders. I don't think that's anywhere near true. But for the individual, it's a survival mechanism. And I always say, I know exactly why I've been put on this earth when I'm standing in front of canvas and painting. And so that's a very, very empowering feeling.
Yeah, I agree. When the lockdown happened in New York, you know, my painting practice was what continued to give a structure to my life. And I was, you know, inside, you know, for months basically, you know, aside from like going out for groceries and like walks in the park and stuff like that. And like painting has always been with me in that way, that because I've moved around a lot, and I've been like there's been a lot of changes in my life, but painting has been the most consistent thing. And I've tried to quit it before, and you can't do it, because like when you've like built your life around a practice, you know, it becomes the most stable thing in your life, then you kind of you need it. And like Reem said, that becomes the reason why, you know, you're put on this earth, because you've built your whole life around that that practice.
I mean, with all of you being, I mean, you can just already, you know, tell how passionate all three of you are about the medium, your painting practices, and like you said, it kind of helped you in this moment in time. Did you find that, you know, as you were co-curating and working with these artists, especially I know Alina and Jan, you said, you know, a lot of the artists you didn't already know beforehand. Did you find that, you know, sharing this passion and connecting with them during COVID, because so many people were feeling very alone and isolated, that somehow helped like create these really, did that help you like create these relationships as you were co-curating, or did you feel like it helped to connect and even some of these statements are so honest and open, and do you think it's that shared passion and that connection you made with them through this time of this time that people were feeling and experiencing all these different emotions? How do you feel that impacted, I guess, the way that this exhibition came about? I don't know if that makes
I feel like for the most part, we continued to function in isolation like we always do. I mean, painters are really good at that. And so I don't think there was a dramatic shift in that respect. And I mean, it's a very lucky thing that we're so used to being introverts and loners in that respect. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys?
Yeah, you know, fortunately, I found like most of my artists pre-COVID, so that was helpful. But I would think seeing the online exhibition and having this like amazing catalog is like this resolution to all of this, and almost a resolution to COVID, because a lot of exhibitions and, all museums are still closed. A lot of shows out here are, you experience them through online. So I guess that's a collective experience too, that everybody's going through.
Yeah, I think I felt a responsibility to the artists to get this done in a way that they felt like it had been worthwhile for them to participate. Because yeah, I mean, when I tell somebody, when I get someone involved in something, I want them by the end of it to feel like, wow, that was really that was really worthwhile. Like, I'm glad that I did that, rather than being like, man, like, I probably shouldn't have signed up for this. And so I think I was really motivated by this desire to accomplish it in a way where it felt for everyone involved that it was a worthwhile thing, and then it maybe gave some like light, in this like kind of the darkness, of the year, being like, wow, well, at least we did that show, or, and then a lot of these artists have other, things that other amazing things like solo shows and stuff that they've done too. So not that this was like the greatest thing, but I wanted it to be something that was accomplished in this year where things got a lot harder.
Yeah, and I think you guys did a phenomenal job. It's a really beautiful show, and to everyone who hasn't yet seen it, please check it out. There's a lot of amazing work on that in the exhibition. We are gonna be winding down in a few minutes. Do you folks have any last thoughts about the exhibition, your experience, any particular artist's work that you want to talk about, or give us information on how we can get the catalog as well?
So the catalog is available for $35, including shipping. It was been produced by the Key Smith Gallery, which is a small gallery. They have a space in Harlem and on the Lower East Side in Manhattan. And they do really nice catalog work. It's going to have a paper linen cover. It's going to be a really beautiful book. And so you can email jan.painters.club@gmail. And just give me your address and we can work out payment through there, and I'll mail you a catalog. Also, all the artists in the show, if you collect painting or want a painting, it's the Christmas season, so let me know and I can connect you with the artists. All the work in the show, for the most part, there's a couple pieces that got purchased by the State Foundation Hawaii, which is really amazing. Joshua Holzman and Tom Walker's work was recommended by the committee that looked at the show for purchase by the state. But I think all the other work is available. So if you want to support artists, or you think you want one of the paintings in your home, just you can connect me, and I'll connect you with either them or their gallerist.
Any more last thoughts?
Thank you for arranging this interview, and thank you to Jan and Alina for all your hard work in making this happen. This was such a pleasure to be part of this group, and I'm mostly thrilled for our artists. I couldn't be prouder of the show, so I would highly encourage people to purchase the catalog. Shows are in a sense ephemeral, but the catalog is there forever. So you will enjoy these works for a long time.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you so much, Jan, with the writing statement. You're a wizard at that. And, thank you, Reem, with keeping all Hawaii artists together. It's always good to see, people that I know do work, and I can't believe we actually accomplished this, so that's a great feeling.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you, folks, for putting together such a beautiful show. I also just want to mention, as Jan said, you can check out the work on honolulumuseum.org. We also have links to the individual artists' websites and contact information on the website as well. Thank you everyone at home for joining us for this insightful and inspiring Talk Story session. Thank you, Reem, Jan, and Alina for sharing your exhibition vision and your honest and thoughtful conversation. And please don't forget to check out the website. And until next time, a hui hou. Thank you, everyone. Bye.